going to do a recipe out of this book, and it is for pickled cherries. And if you have never had these, they are so good. It's a very sweet and tangy, very different than any pickle I've ever had. It's got a lot of spices in it. I've made some modifications just based off of what is easiest for me to find and to afford and taste. So that's the way that I'm going to be doing the recipe today. So each batch, the way that I'm going to be doing it is going to be 2.5 cups of vinegar, 2 cups of sugar. It calls for 2 tablespoons of salt, and I take that back a notch and I do 1 tablespoon. It calls for a vanilla bean. Those are very expensive, so I don't use that. 7 whole cloves, 7 star anise. And back when I first did this recipe, I could not find star anise. And so I did some research and found that you can sub out a 1/2 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice for 1 star anise. So I have no idea what star anise tastes like, but this is the way that I've made them for a few years now, and they taste fantastic. So that's the sub that I make. If you can find that, use it, but I can't find it. So 7 cinnamon sticks, and I will tell you that I used my tall jars for the not brandied, but anyway, the recipe that I just showed you guys. And now I don't know if the cinnamon sticks are going to fit in the other jars that I have, so I might end up having to kind of break those up a bit and put them in there. But anyway, 7 cinnamon sticks, 2 3/4 pounds of fresh dark sweet cherries. And so I'm going to throw my brine together and get the jars heated up and filled up with cherries. And once I'm rocking and rolling here, I will bring you back. So what I have here is in each of my 1/2 pint jars, I have, I don't know if you can see it, over here in this corner, I have a clove, and then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of the Chinese 5-spice, and then I broke my cinnamon sticks in half to be able to fit into the jars. So I think that that's going to work out okay. I have my brine just starting to get heated up, and I'm going to get that to a boil. And while I'm waiting for that to finish, I'm going to come over here and fill these jars with cherries. So you can see that I have my jars filled with the cherries. And we are going to, let me get my, we're just going to start ladling in the sauce, the brine, not the sauce, the brine. And let's see, can you still see that? Oh, push that back a bit, there we go. So what I like to do is go through and just put in a ladle of the hot brine into the jars. I think you saw that on the last video as I was doing it as well. Kind of keeps your jars, you know, the cherries are cold or room temperature, and they've been sitting out, and putting in the hot brine just a ladle at a time gives that jar a little bit of time to warm up so that you don't get the breakage from shock if you take your time and kind of work your way around. I think I'm going to need another ladle for each of these before I can debubble. Now when I do the tall jars, many times if you count out the cherries, the recipe says about 12 cherries per jar, and that's pretty spot on. But I didn't even bother counting with these jars because I've never done them in flat jars like this. At least not that I can recall anyway. So we're just gonna go through and debubble and kind of push those down as much as we can. See if we can add another cherry or two in there. These are going in cold, which is how this particular recipe calls for them to go in. So they will float a little bit. Although I did notice that my spirited cherries, they're floating a little bit in there, brine over there as well, but that's, as time goes on, they'll soak down or migrate. Yeah, that definitely gave us some more room in there, so through and fix that headspace. Start cleaning off the rims and get them jarred up, ready to process. It's a pretty quick, it's like every other pickle, you know, pickles are actually really a quick job. The thing with these is you have to remember that they're sweet and that sugar will get on there and mess up a seal if you don't have it cleaned well enough. So take your time and make sure that they're cleaned well. And I misplaced my There you can see the yellow floating, and I'll turn it around. See the cinnamon sticks in there. Hoping those jars are warm enough that I'm not going to shock them too much, because I do have the burner on high, so feeling on these don't really feel all that warm, so fingers crossed, no shock and break. Some of these jars I just got from a friend of mine. She wasn't using them anymore, and I think that they're from Canada, although this one says Kerr, but I'll show you. They're thicker, they're sturdier, they just look just a tad different than my other ones. They're very cool. All right, so I'll go ahead and finish getting these and I will bring you back. So I just got them in the canner. It is heating up. But I thought I would just take a second and show you guys the jars. So here's one of the Kerr jars that's gonna show up there. There's also some balls that she gave me, but then there's one of these guys, and I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to read what that says. I don't think so, but it says Home Discovery, and this jar is just, it's thicker than the other one. I don't know if you can tell that, but the wide mouth fits on them, and they're very neat, very sturdy, made to last many years, which is good. So anyway, I'm gonna get that up to a boil, and they're gonna be just like the spirited cherries and need to go for my altitude for 15 minutes. I'll bring you back and show you what they look like when they come out. And there are the finished pickled cherries. turned out pretty good. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.